There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, GuMPers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, podcast and live stream. How are you this morning? Tudo bem? Como estás? Do let me know, please, in the comments, as, of course, many have done already this morning. I have some gongs to give out in just a moment. Yes, some of that. A bit of horn this morning for you. A bit of horn and cock. I can't believe I just said that. It's I think it's a bit of a carryover from last night's mirth and merriment with the Austin brothers. That was last night's Good Morning Portugal Wine Club, which is now for 23 the Good Morning Portugal Food and Wine Club, as you'll see on the first Monday of February, where Frank joins us. And I'm hoping we're going to have a bit of a live cooking demo. Last night we took a few sips. I was going to say a few sips, as it turns out, of liqueur Baron. I had the Baron d'Onra, a nice Crimbo Prezi from T-Duck, which I savoured last night. This is the 100-year celebration of the traditional Portuguese Baron liqueur, the 100-year celebratory issue that came out a year or two ago. So a great night was had by all. You can watch the replay of that. Lots of giggling and snickering, I think you Americans say, don't you? A lot of laughter last night. Many double entendres slipped in, of course, last night. So great fun at the all-new Good Morning Portugal Food and Wine Club for 2023. Catch that on YouTube for the replay, and bookmark or join the group on Facebook for updates coming up for the year ahead, where we bring the best of Portuguese food and wine to you. Looking a bit, I don't know, BBC visual effect for Doctor Who from the 1970s on the screen at the moment. I haven't tweaked my green screen. This might make my eyes water, but look like I'm frying on the screen a little bit. Just go down a little bit and then back up a little bit. Maybe that's a bit better now. I don't know. We'll move on anyway, and we'll say good morning this morning. Yes, what's good about your morning? This is the Good Morning Portugal show. What's good about your morning where you are? We've got Bill and Marcus in this morning. I couldn't download your lovely greeting yesterday that was sent in by Bill. So if you wouldn't mind sending that again, I'd be delighted to put that onto the screen. And there's a few more New Year's greetings this morning. Portuglish, we'll come back to you, Lord Gilchrist, but you're here, Andy, as is Lee, Joao F. Baddy, Coach Turner. We have Anna in Stockholm as well, snowy Stockholm this morning. Oh, any chance of a picture, please, Anna? And we have God Squad tip of the day from Coach Turner, and a lovely brace of uplifting and thought-provoking content from top producer T-Duck as well, live from the capital. And Deagle's with us with a Feliz Ano Novo. And apparently in Belfast, we wish people a Happy New Year until the 7th of January. So past 12th night to 13th night, it would appear, for Belfast. And you say as well, Deagle, that it's a bon dia to Carl and GuMPers from a cold start, -3, which is now warmed up to 5 degrees in Belfast. I will come back to all of your lovely and generous and kind comments as we progress through the show. We have Tony Barbosa, the man in the Minho, with us at 9. And of course, let's do those gongs now. Thank you very much. I just interrupted myself mid-sentence there tonight. We got Tony at 9, and of course, at 9:30, and I'm hoping Tony will stay for this, the biggest phone in Europe, which we launched yesterday, and that's I have a special award to issue this morning, because Lord Gilchrist, look at him on the screen there, doesn't he look fabulous? He looks absolutely lordly there, with an old-fashioned vintage telephone, and he was the first. So why not join us this morning at 9:30? Great idea that came in about us co-creating and building the biggest phone in Europe from James, who was, of course, our guest yesterday on Mindful Migration Monday. James, you say why not, or something to the effect of why not let people be anonymous when they call in? I'm up for that because at least I have their details should they get a bit spicy or difficult on the phone. I can, of course, trace them, but I don't need to give out your name if you do call in. So if you wish to do that, the number is the same for sending in your community contributions. This is a community contributed show, of course, the Good Morning Portugal show. And the number is 00351 for future reference. You're going to want this and you're going to want to give it to friends all across Europe. I don't see why anyone anywhere in the world shouldn't call into Europe's biggest phone in, as long as it's in some way Europe related. So 00351 913 590 303. And there's Lord Gilchrist on the screen. I was on Europe's biggest phone in. You too can get a badge like this. You won't get first, though. You won't get the little what's that called? The blue ribbon, of course, there. You won't get a special rosette saying first because he can tell his grandchildren or anyone, passers by, people at bus stops, on park benches, that he was the first caller on Europe's biggest phone in. Lord Gilchrist, what a fantastically brilliant, esteemed company to have. We had an actual lord who christened the biggest phone in Europe yesterday. And while we're about thanking people, thank you, Melissa, as well, who supported the Good Morning Portugal show via our homepage. Let me show you that as well. We haven't been to we can have a look at the weather while we're there. We haven't been to our website for a little while. Did quite a lot of work on it, as it turns out, over the Christmas period. So take a look at goodmorningportugal.com, if you will. And Melissa, thank you very much for your kind financial contribution. It all helps. You can become a GMP VIP for €9 a month, including government tax. Because you'll be helping out the infrastructure and economy of Portugal, of course, when you contribute and support the Good Morning Portugal show. Let me have a little wander around the website then before we come back to your comments in just a moment. And you can see our Christmas greeting video is still there on the homepage, along with a new blog, The 3 Stages of Successful Migration. And of course, we intend to inspire, inform, and entertain you if you're moving to Portugal. Or even already living in Portugal. And there's a list of all the things we do to help. I don't think it's exhaustive. It's quite comprehensive, but it's not an exhaustive list there. I think that's a few of the things we do in our endeavor to help you if you're moving to Portugal or are living here already and want to live your best life here in Portugal. That's what we're all about. And on the same homepage there, you can help us with a one-off donation or a monthly membership. Become a GMP VIP, which Melissa did and many others have done. And we thank each and every one of you. And we endeavor to send you a little message each month as well by way of a thank you to you. And there are the options for helping us there. If you don't want to or can't afford to support us financially, you can help us with your time, treasure, or talent, of course. As a top producer, T-Duck is keen to point out, it's the future, you know. It's not always possible to support people with treasure, is it? So we have our time and our talent to give as well, which I know many of you do, supporting the Good Morning Portugal endeavor as well. And there's a few ways you can help us on the home page as well. Oh, including a link to Revolut there, which I think is probably out of date now, but quite a good way to spend your money when you're moving around Europe and the rest of the world. Revolut, I would recommend that. I also have a Wise card too. We'll do deeper dives into such things. We have the news desk as well. Let me just see if that's changing for you on your view. Yes, the GMP news and features desk there. We feature other people's news as well as a few of our own news stories there, including weird things in a way, like noodle substitutions. Can you believe that? I bought those great big fat noodles in the supermarket and made a fantastic Asian dish. So it's nice to find food substitutions. You're not going to find news like this on every site, as we'll see in a moment, possibly, as we look at the Portugal news and the Portugal resident this morning. But there's our news and weather tab, as well as the GuMPer. Look how big the GuMPer is. It's eye-wateringly big. And another reason for showing you this morning is there is a 50 plus vitality tab as well, with the most recent video from Coach Turner up there. So thank you very much for all your wonderful work, Coach Turner. Under the 50 plus vitality tab on the GuMPer. But there's so many things on there. We have Oh, where's that gone now? 50 plus. Oh, there we go. We have a Google group for the GuMPers. We have our Christmas Advent calendar, which you can still enjoy. What are GuMPers? The GuMPer map with events. A new event apparently is who has the best helmet competition in the Aveiro district that Andy has had. Is all over that, of course. That's going up on the GuMPer map. And he brought that to my attention yesterday. In Fatima, there is the blessing of the helmets. That's an annual event. But apparently, who can adorn their helmet most? What's the right word to use? Ostentatiously, possibly. That'll be going up on the GuMPer map as an event. And please pop your events up, your points of interest, and your meetups all over Portugal, all over the world. In fact, if you've got a Portugal-based meetup in Vancouver, for example, that Susie's trying to organise, that too can go on our GuMPer map. We have our gallery there, which is absolutely beautiful, of user contributed. I don't like to call you users. Community member contributions at the GuMPer gallery. Beautiful pictures from all over Portugal. And we have some of those to include this morning as well. Great work from Victoria. The GuMPer store, the GuMPer blog, news of or a link to the wine club and the gardening Q&A, ways to learn Portuguese. Expat Wealth and Tax private group that you can join as well. And the meme machine as well for any memes that you've missed out on. I need to update that. Because we have some terrific memes. A lot of those contributed by T-Duck. You see, people contributing their talent. And there's a way to help is send amusing things in, which many of you have done this morning, which I'll feature. So all sorts there. Let's have a quick look at our own weather then, shall we, this morning? Cold in Belfast, as we found out from Deagle this morning. A bit slow to load, perhaps a little. It was chilly, actually, when I went out with the dogs this morning. And yes, it looks like our weather page is a bit frozen up and chilly as well. There is a new addition to the weather page. I don't quite know what that's doing or what that's telling us. It's windy.com. It's showing the currents, I suppose they're air currents, aren't they? And a relative temperature scale. It doesn't look like the world is currently ablaze with climate change and global warming, fortunately, this morning. But you get to see, I think you can choose yes, you can use that slider and have a look at the weather later on today or this week there. And you can see some air currents moving across the United Kingdom on that map. Lisbon at the moment, 8 degrees, which is 46 in the Fahrenheit, and will rise to 57 degrees, a cloudy day in the capital. In Porto, 5 degrees, currently rising to 13. It's looking pretty cloudy, isn't it, for the rest of the week, generally speaking, although there are some outbreaks of sunshine. In Coimbra, Thursday, we'll see 15 degrees as a high, currently 3 and rising to 13 today, a cloudy day there. But look at that in the Algarve, 16 degrees the high today, and straight sun until the weekend, where it will rise to 17 tomorrow, 16 Thursday, Friday, and 15, and very comfortable 11 degrees in Faro at the moment. And Braga, 7 degrees with broken clouds, rising to 12 degrees. So if you go to the website, you can click on the news and weather tab and have a look at the weather for your own region. We have all the districts of Portugal there on the weather page. Thank you very much for letting me give you that little tour around the website. You didn't get much choice, but I hope that was useful to you. Let's see what everyone is saying in the chat. Bon dia, alegria, GuMPers from T-Duck this morning. Let me just make sure everything's working all right. I often scroll to the bottom of the comments so that people can, so that I can see when people are saying, Carl, your microphone's not working, that I can actually see that, or if there is some other technical difficulty. Things seem to be working well. The user feedback is good, or the community contribution technically seems to be good this morning. A thought then, that's the most recent comment coming in. If the Northern Hemisphere is cold, think about those poor Aussies enjoying the summer. Yes, thank you for that. Moaz, where is Mrs. M? Busy with the kids this morning. She may pop in. You know what she's like. She might pop in like a kingfisher and grace our pond with her beautiful color, like a kingfisher, tearing down a Portuguese stream. But we shall see. She may or may not join us this morning. But I will pass on your best regards, Moaz. I hope you had a great Christmas, festive period. I know you love Christmas. We saw the video evidence of that. So let's scroll back to the beginning of the comments this morning in anticipation of Tony joining us at 9 a.m. this morning. Oh, thank you very much for your being sent images by Will again, sending me a picture of Johnny Depp this morning with my name on it. And Carl and question mark. What, Will? I don't know what you mean by that. Andy, thank you very much for your picture of a breastfeeding woman and two men on horseback. That's an odd. I know that's Mama Rosa, isn't it? The village thereof, and that very interesting mural that they have there. And Anna has said, my goodness, here it goes, Carl, says Anna. My balcony view this morning, and some ice on the windows. The Austin brothers were talking about scraping ice off the windows when they were kids. So thank you for those wonderful pictures. We'll come to those wonderful community contributions and all the others this morning. Did you hear that? I'm busy downloading things as we speak. Thank you very much, Andy and Anna, for those late entries into the show. Comments then. Oh, and themes. Themes for 2023. These were suggested by Wayne and others are coming in. I really like these. I think Wayne's nailed it in many ways. You know, what would you like to see for 2023 on the Good Morning Portugal show? Historic Portugal, features thereof, cultural Portugal, useful phrases, hidden gems, renovating and building. I know he's in the thick of that. And also from Wayne, group news. Activities that we might all get involved in together, walking, hiking, cycling, swimming, etc. Great suggestions there. Thank you very much for those, Wayne. Appreciate that. And more deep thoughts this morning from Ursula Le Guin. Any other fans of Ursula, and also any other pronunciation tips for her name would be gratefully received as well. I think I've got that right. Nobody seemed to take offense to me saying Ursula Le Guin yesterday, or Ursula K. Le Guin. Any other fans? Bon dia alegria GuMPers then from T-Duck. And I want to wish everyone a happy new year until January the 7th as well. Deep thought then from you, T-Duck. A dangerous book will always be in danger from those it threatens, with the demand that they question their assumptions. They'd rather hang on to the assumptions and ban the book. We've seen that throughout history, haven't we? There are those of us in this community, and I think there are quite a lot of us here actually, who seem to follow the question everything concept. Who was the first to come up with that? Question everything, I wonder. Ursula K. Le Guin then. Kroeber Le Guin was an American author best known for her works of speculative fiction there. And this morning talking about assumptions, which of course make an ass of you and me. Portuguese, it's exhausting, isn't it, though, questioning everything all day long. I guess we have to, well, we don't have to, but it might be useful at times to have a few givens and maybe review them on a cyclical basis, perhaps. Constant questioning of everything can be quite tiring, can it not? Portuguese saying of the day then today, tal tronco, tal acha. Such a trunk, such a thing. What? You must meet roughness with roughness. Okay, give them a taste of their own medicine this morning then, with the Portuguese saying, tal tronco, tal acha. Such a trunk, such a thing. That is an odd one, isn't it? And who knew then, Hugo Nuno, the amazing word saudade, which many of you, if you've lived here for a while or if you've researched Portuguese culture, will know. Saudade is almost untranslatable. We are being told this morning. It means an intense and sorrowful longing or nostalgia over someone or something. And the Portuguese do it so well that you miss and can't get back. Saudade. You can feel it, can't you, when you hear the fado singers and fado performers. Should we do the dad jokes now? Because I save the dad jokes, and I must admit, sometimes I forget them. So, dad joke warning. And we need to find that jingle, don't we? Oh, no. Antonio has entered the green room, everybody, and is feasting on the virtual snacks that have been provided. Oh, they're actually Christmas leftovers in the virtual green room. Looking forward to talking to the man in the Minho in just a little while. Up there in the north, if you've got any questions about Portuguese culture. In fact, all of those themes that I just mentioned, phrases, useful phrases. What else was there? Oh, no, hold on. That's my list of realizations that was sent to me as well for New Year's. And we've got a few more resolution-based memes. You may have seen the first one that we published before the show started this morning. But historic Portugal, cultural Portugal, useful phrases, hidden gems, and renovating buildings, and a bit of group news, group activities. Of course, Tony is organizing a trade mission. If you know any American realtors that might want to come to Portugal Talk about group news. He's got the most amazing trade mission coming up in the spring of this year. Back to dad jokes then. Yes, I must find the, oh no, dad joke warning. We haven't issued that for a long time. And apparently there is a little kind of flouncy dance, slam dunk, mic drop gesture you can make. I saw, I think from Lad Bible, some Aussies doing some dad jokes. You do the dad joke and then you walk off, with your bottom swaying from side to side in a gesture of alpha male defiance, having issued a dad joke. Let's try some of those now. I like to share the benefits of dried grapes. It's all about raisin awareness. That's actually quite timely and appropriate. And because the Portuguese, of course, like to eat 12 raisins as a New Year cultural thing, which I believe each of the 12 raisins represents the year ahead, the 12 months. The Spanish, now Antonio might be able to confirm or deny this. The Spanish like to do it with grapes, as it were, and they stuff their mouth with 12 whole grapes, not the shrunken raisin and dried raisin, but the whole 12 grapes. Now, I'm imagining when I heard that, and that was Stuart on Spain Speaks. I heard him talking about that, and it's a habit he's not particularly fond of, as I recall from listening to him on Spain Speaks. But the Spanish do like to stick 12 whole grapes into their gobs, into their cake holes, as it were. And I'm imagining that the Spanish casualty ER rooms are sometimes full of people who've choked on grapes. I mean, can you imagine drinking some Carver on New Year's Eve and then stuffing your mouth full of 12 whole plump grapes rather than the raisins? Maybe stood on a chair with blue underwear. I don't know if the Spanish share that as well, but that could possibly go wrong with the 12 big juicy grapes in Spain. I'm not sure if my wife is satisfied with my body. A small part of me says yes. And my friends, third of the dad jokes today, my friends, and more are welcome, of course. We can climax with a few more dad jokes if you want to send them in. And visual memes of dad jokes have been coming in as well, mainly from James. Thank you. My friends and I named our band Duvet. It's a cover band, of course. There you go, some nice early dad jokes. God Squad tip of the day then, from Ian to come. Bon dia, GuMPers, on the first day of relative normality. Don't be coming here with your relative normality. Good morning, Portugal, and relative normality. You must be kidding. At least here in the UK, Mrs. T and I are looking forward to travel plans for the coming year. Great to have something to look forward to. Is it a bit chilly there this morning? It isn't. When I was out with the dogs this morning, it was. I did think of my British friends. It was chilly for me this morning here in Portugal. God Squad tip of the day then. Side plank, great for the core. Lie on your side and raise your body up with the lower forearm on the floor. We might need a video for this one. Hold for a few seconds and then lower and alternate your sides. Make sure you marinate yourself in olive oil beforehand. I added that last bit. That's not actually part of the official God Squad tip of the day. But it just sounds like alternating the sides. It's like flipping burgers or ribs or something like that. This can also be done with a straight arm, increasing the difficulty. You can also raise and lower the hips to add more effort as your strength improves. And I'm hearing some music in the background while you're doing this, and you're raising and lowering your hips in a boom boom Brazil style with that one. Yes, videos please of people performing their God Squad tip of the day with some pimba or some maybe some Brazilian pop music in the background. These 8 resolutions are interesting, are they not? And we can accompany these with some New Year's memes. How about this one from that Katia had? That way for same old mistakes, and the other way. Let me just move that from the screen so you can see. Yeah, glorious new mistakes to the right, please. Same old mistakes for 2023 to the left there. And the one I showed earlier on, here are your 2023 achievable New Year's resolutions. 1, get older. 2, gain weight. 3, do stuff. 4, drink coffee. And 5, try not to die. Yes, please. Those are fairly achievable, aren't they? Yoga pose of the day, the downward spiral. And let's look at these 8 what were they? 8 realizations about life as we go into the new year. Number 1, time doesn't wait. 2, no one else will save you. 3, excellence requires patience. 4, happiness is habitual. And when James was saying that yesterday, happiness is a choice, do we want that as part of our merchandise? Happiness is a choice. A GuMPer t-shirt, possibly. Who would buy that? Let me know. Life and growth are not linear. That's true, isn't it? Ain't that the truth? Thoughts are things, number 6. 7 days determine direction. It's an interesting one. And 8, even with a plan, it happens. There you go. Thank you very much. I think that was T-Duck as well who sent that in. Not sure. And James is here with your yoga pose of the day, the downward spiral. Thank you very much for that. A few New Year's greetings as well as New Year's resolutions and lovely pickies, and a video clip from Victoria as well that I think I probably saved for the end of the show. Lovely video of New Year's Day down there in Albufeira, I believe. Here's something to whet your appetite before we go there. Isn't that a beautiful picture from Victoria? I think that's the same place. Where is that, Victoria, where you were? Let me just let everybody know. Beautiful pictures and videos sent in, and you say yes, happy Tuesday to us. Here are some dramatic video of Bodeira on New Year's Day, located a bit south of Algeciras, beg your pardon, not Albufeira, located a bit south of Algeciras on the western coast. Thank you very much for that. That's a beautiful picture there. Thank you very much, and we'll stick that in the GuMPer gallery. Bom dia, GuMPers. Feliz terça a todos. Como está? Tudo bem? From James this morning. How you doing, James? And thank you for that suggestion. If you want to call in to Europe's biggest phone-in, you can do so anonymously if you're feeling shy or do not want to put your name to your comments that you might share with us. João F., good morning, GuMPers. Loving to see you, as always. Great to see you here, João F. Anna, checking in from Stockholm. Bom dia para todos from a snowy Stockholm this morning. And here are the pictures to prove it. Looking out the window. Brr, absolutely right. Snowy Stockholm. Isn't that beautiful? And ice on the window as well. Look at that. Wow. Wonderful picture. If you think you're cold, just check that out. Although we might have a contender for an even colder place on planet Earth where a GuMPer might be tuned in from this morning. Thank you for being here this morning. Baddy also in. Feliz Ano Novo. I hope to start the new year. I hope the start to the new year is going well. That's a greeting to everybody. Looking forward to the show this morning. Hold on a minute. That was at 8:32. And old Lord Gilchrist knocking on the door, trying to get the show started. Marcus as well. Bon dia, Alegria. Morning to you, PT Country Bear. And people saying good morning to each other. That's always wonderful to see. The sun is beaming down on the city this morning. Yes, the sun shines on the righteous, of course, Lord Gilchrist. Good morning, people from Lee McGrady as well. Something that's helped me learn the Portuguese language, I was taught that in Portugal, você is not used for the second person singular formal, but was never taught that was used. What I eventually discovered that vos is the proper Portuguese way of saying the second person formal. Is everybody keeping up with that? Maybe Antonio can help us with that. And Victoria, hola, bon dia, kids, from a chilly and sunny Portimao. It's a nice combination sometimes, isn't it? Feeling the warmth of the sun on your back, even though the air is a little bit crisp. On Sunday, I went to a car event in Stony Stratford. Isn't that a lovely British name for a town? Stony Stratford, an old coaching town on Watling Street near Milton Keynes. There are 2 old coaching inns there, the Cock and the Bull. Of course there are. That's how they roll when they're naming pubs in the UK. I look scruffy. I normally have a clean-shaven face. Oh, are you not? Do you know Mrs. M thought you might not like that picture? I really like it. I think you look lordly in that. So if you would prefer me to change that, Andrew, I'm glad. I'd be happy to do that. And hammer that like button is the suggestion from T-Duck. And let's say hello to a few more people we haven't yet said hello to. We'll come back to your comments, but I want to make sure everyone is included and has checked in this morning. I do love Christmas. The house looks naked with no decorations. Have you taken them down already, Moaz? It didn't wait till the 6th of January, 12th night. And Carl Hyde is in this morning, as is Marty. So bon dia to all from Carl H. Good. Have you got a good taxi driver that you use, a tried and trusted taxi driver in Lisbon, please, Carl? Can you send me details if you do? He's our man. He's our Englishman in Lisboa, is Carl Hyde. And I'm pretty sure he's got a pretty reliable little black book of contacts. We're looking for a trusted and reliable taxi driver, please, Carl, in the capital there. Good morning, Carl, and all our GuMPers from Marty as well. How are you doing, Marty? Great to see you here this morning. Thank you. Always lovely to see GuMPers here who are tuned in whilst here in Portugal, by who previously were tuned in from elsewhere. There's something going on here, says by Andy. Everything you suggest our Keep Fit coach literally did. I see. You did this at your Keep Fit session. So everything the coach suggests, you've already done at your previous Keep Fit session. That's interesting. That is spooky. Pete's here as well, with a comment to you, Joao F, and to Moaz and to Bagandi. Wildlife photography this morning. So great to have a week ahead packed with sunshine. I might have missed something there. And Stephen Wells is in too. Thank you all. Have this. Great to have you here. And let's keep that applause going as we welcome onto the screen Antonio Barbosa in the north of Portugal. How are you, my friend?
Bom dia, alegria, Carlito.
How are you, my friend?
Good, Happy New Year, Feliz Ano Novo, Noel, no, Joanne. Feliz Año Nuevo. I see that you were talking a little bit about Spain, so yeah, with the King's Day of Kings coming up on January 6th, that's where you want to be in Spain. We're lucky because yeah, it's well the January 6th is the Dia de Reis. Even for Portugal, we celebrate. You hear people walking around, especially school children, or at nighttime, they're singing, right? The Christmas carols and things. They're singing the Reis, and then you're getting some little bit of change here. And this is in Portugal. And they also do the cavalcata. I think that's what it's called, where they do the parade and they throw candy, you know what I mean, into if you're in the cities, they do it here in Valencia do Minho, they do. So definitely come out here on Friday afternoon if it's a nice sunny day, and you can watch the spectacular parade that they put out, the city hall, and it goes into Spain as well. So, but and then you'll see lots of children.
Oh, fantastic! So it's like a cross-border effort, is it?
Yeah. They do a lot of things here between Tui and Valencia do Minho as well, and even Vila Nova de Cerveira, Caminha, all the Monção, all along the Minho River. They do some sort of always on the border side towns.
Oh, well, that never occurred to me that folks might do that, because the rivalry between Portugal and Spain is a matter of public record, isn't it? Yeah, I think people quite like it as a little bit of fun to have that rivalry between the two countries. And then you hear of this, some cooperation, and a whole lot more quiet cooperation and collaboration goes on than we actually tend to hear about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot. In actuality, they have actually organizations for it, named.
Yeah.
So, and president associations and everything. So between the two city halls, very cooperative. Well, the two here that are the closest that I mostly deal with, but they have so many of them around the whole. And of the Minho region, that confronts with the river, all the border towns and the cities in Portugal and Spain. It's a great collaboration.
Yeah, great. Good to hear it.
There's a small little micro economy, right? Because the Portuguese may go to Spain, whether they go there for their culture, their food, the sites as well. But the Spanish love coming here, and for this main reason, same reasons as well. And so, but if you come on a Saturday, for example, you go to Vila Nova de Cerveira, you come on a Wednesday to Valencia or Caminha, you go on a Thursday to Monção. You'll see those villages, right? How they just transform themselves. The amount of Spanish people that visit regularly, and it's something you have to see it because it's like there's nobody there, and all of a sudden on those days, they just kind of where do I park or where do I go to eat? Everything's full.
Amazing. Now tell me, Tony, we will cover the 12 grapes thing. But when I'm aware of Spanish people in town here, when I lived in the Aveiro district and also here in San Martino de Porto, when Spanish people are in town, right? Because they tend to be a bit more animated and a bit noisier. I think that's a statement of fact rather than a horrific racial stereotype. Would you agree? And where people live closely together on the border, is that difference still clear, or is it kind of watered down a bit by the close proximity?
No, it would this the it is. It's true. Where, for example, like
Okay.
it is. I mean, you can't. You can't. When the Spanish come here, for example, you notice that when it's a Spanish table, or you notice a Portuguese table. Portuguese are a little more quiet, reserved, etc. Eating.
Yes.
They're a little more festive. Even when you go for nighttime. I spent New Year's Eve, and New Year's Eve I spent a lot of time. I go to Vigo, but I spent New Year's Eve in Vigo, basically. And even when you go out on a normal night, it's called fiesta,
Yes.
for party. No, we're not going out tonight. No, we're going vamos a la fiesta. And so they're partying, right? They have a different culture. Okay, they have a different culture. When you go to the coffee shops, like when it's after work, like 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll see people having that little wine and the tapa. When you get the tapas. Well, actually, here's a fun fact for you, Carl.
Thank you.
Tapas came from when you go to the taverns and they would they would ask for a glass of wine or a mug, those little mugs of wines, right? And they would put like a piece of bread over it with a little piece of ham or something, tapa, para tapar. That's why it's called, when you go to a tapas bar, it's the tapas. So it top it off so that
Right.
yeah, that's typical. That's a fun fact. There's a lot of, like I said, I'm a valuable source of useless information if you want to know.
That's great. That's really good. So that's the origin of tapas, is it? With your drink, you might get a piece of bread and a bit of ham on top of your drink.
Exactly. You put it out, it's typical. You go to the little tashkas, right?
Yeah.
Those off dive bars or whatever you want to call them. And
Yes.
you have that little wine. It's in a mug. Forget about a cup. It's in a mug, right? And then so they just put a nice slice of bread there and something on top. And so people got used to that. And now it's like
Love
tapas
that.
bar, tapas, but it's a tapa. Tapa, it means to cover, right?
Top, and yes, absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. Incidentally, talking of etiquette and cultural differences, on Thursday, I'm delighted to be hosting this webinar with Expats Portugal. Moving to Portugal, let's talk about culture shock and etiquette. So that's 7:30 this coming Thursday. So find out more about culture shock arriving in Portugal and the right things to do, like not pointing. We might come back to that. I know a lot of Portuguese people are horrified when I point. I can't help it. Is the woman in that picture pointing? She is. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but this pointing thing, maybe we should deal with it right now, Tony, because that's what people want to hear about, cultural insights, as part of that list that I read out earlier on. I think this sort of thing is quite helpful. I was aware of it only yesterday in the Burger bar. Is it Braga or Burger? The Burger bar of the Continent supermarket. I pointed to a chocolate quente con natas to buy for my son, because when you're a foreigner and you're a little bit, you're not so confident speaking the language, you might gesture as well as speak and point at things. Now, I sometimes see a look of horror flash across the faces of my Portuguese correspondents in conversation. And I want to cut my hand off at that point and think to myself, stop pointing. This is not working well in the culture. Is that true? Am I making that up, or is there something rude about pointing in Portugal?
Well, the first question you got to ask, and that's what I know. So I have to see which finger did you point with? The middle
Oh,
one?
really?
Because that could be the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, my
if you
word.
use your index finger,
Index. I see what you mean. I thought you were talking about us left-handed or right-handed, and there are nuances of that kind. No, always the index finger.
yeah.
Never
Okay.
any other.
First, I like to get I like to get these things cleared out of the way
Yes,
because
no, well done, well done.
no, yeah, it is. I think I I don't I don't take any offense to it. Those are probably the older, more traditional ways and stuff of
Yeah.
pointing. It's so natural for somebody that doesn't speak the language. They hey, you're going to try to explain it to them. You know what? The Spanish will have no problem in pointing it out because they're not going to try to speak Spanish. Well, they're not going to try to speak Portuguese, right? That's the big difference. I think we talked about this. Where, for
Yes.
example, a Portuguese person will go to Spain and try to even remotely try to speak. Well, and Spanish is not a language, right? You have Galician, you have Castellano, you have the Basque, and you have Catalan.
Yes.
So you don't speak Spanish. You live in Spain. That's a country. Spanish is a country. And you speak one of the languages or one of the provincial languages. And so if you speak
Interesting.
Galician, somebody
Yes.
from Catalan, for example, they're going to come here. They're going to speak Catalan in Portugal. But somebody from Portugal will go there and they'll try to speak Catalan. And if they don't, I could see the Spanish just pointing with all their fingers. You know what I mean? You know, they have this saying, the Spanish love to see things with their hands, not with their eyes. So they like to touch.
Okay. Yes. All right. And that would only accentuate the Portuguese position here, wouldn't it? It's like, no, we don't point. They point. We don't. Okay. And even though it is called the pointer finger for a reason, perhaps not. Yes. Look, Andy says that's true. Actually, we were told as kids it's rude to point, but it's so hard not to in so many ways. I think people. This is. People are interested in this pointing thing. The pointing aversion may, says James, have something to do with pointing at people or pointing at pastry.
You know,
In the
Carlos, if somebody doesn't point, you know what they could do? You know what they could do? They could nudge with their nose, like
kind of. I think that's going to cause even more of a
or something like that. I think that would be more rude.
elbows from the pandemic time. You point with your elbows instead because it's more hygienic. I don't know.
When it comes to pointing, I think for me, when it comes to pointing, somebody pointing the finger, it's like, you did it, you did it, you did it.
Yes,
that's where probably wouldn't be your tattletale or this or that, and you're pointing because you're pointing that out. And I think in that sense, it would be a little bit rude. I would think.
Yeah. Okay, well, I totally understand that, and I really also struggle not to point occasionally when my language is failing me. It's a tricky one, and we'll talk more about that, I think, on the webinar at 7:30 on Thursday. You are being greeted here, Lord Gilchrist, saying Captain Barbosa is here. Does sound like a good pirate name, that. And bon dia, Antonio from Joao F as well. Bairandi, picking up on what you were saying about King's Day. There's a King's Day parade and concert in Pampilhosa on the GuMPer map. And that's the one in the Bairrada region. Because Pete was asking which Pampilhosa, not Pampilhosa de Serra or any of the other 5 Pampilhosas that they seem to have in central Portugal. Bairrada region, Pampilhosa, and it is on the map. And he's continuing to do fantastic work on our GuMPer map. And yeah, it's near Melhada, which of course, Melhada, certainly famous. What's it famous for throughout the country, Tony? Melhada?
I think it has to do with chicken, right? Is that what it is?
No, well, yes. You might give me up, right?
Leitão.
Tony doesn't know this. How does he not know this? Okay, very good. You got me. But it is the Golden Mile or 5 miles of Leitão, isn't it, Melhada?
Yep, absolutely. Melhada, the Barrada, the whole area there. But even there's so many places to have the there is the capital, right? Because they do it, when there's a traditional way. Like you have wines, you have regions, right? That has wine DOCs, the origin controladas or DOPs, etc. Controlled areas. There's also a registered area or trademark for that certain, if it has to be Bairrada style, right? There's a certain method that they use, like sweating the pig, for example. Where they make it like nice and crispy. You have to do it a certain way. Whereas from Bairrada is a DOC as well, the origin controlada, how they make the leitão. I love it. Every time I go down south somewhere, I have to stop. My favorite one is in Águeda. It's not in the normal. It's not in the. It's off the beaten path. Not where all. Don't go where the tourist goes. That I could tell you.
Actually, yes, you're right. And they do. I mean, it's not foreign tourists, is it? It's Portuguese tourists. If you drive through Melhada on a Sunday, they arrive in coaches, don't they, to go to these leitão restaurants? It's a trip out. It's like a community trip on a coach to go to these restaurants.
Yeah, exactly. That people do make it an outing. But I every time I go up or down, I always when go to GuMPer, for example, or even Lisbon, São Martinho do Porto, you don't go to the coast. I make it a point to come through there on purpose. It's like, really, it's you got to have, when you go there, it's like That's what you got to have. And then also with the bubbly, right? The white bubbly. Ooh,
Yes. Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. And I've got a Leytown restaurant. When next time you come here, I do have a Leytown restaurant that I found here, and I was lucky to find it, Tony, because there's a place you drive along the 242 road here. That's the Nazare Road.
Is that near
Going up.
Pombal? Is that the one near Pombal? There's a great one in
No,
Pombal.
no, you wouldn't know this one, and I live here, and I only just discovered it by accident. It's just like 2-minute drive from where we live. And but from the front, it looks like an old gas station, and there is a cafe there where this traditional sort of thing where fellas go and have a beer, and they might have a bifana or a Leytown sandwich. And I was thinking, there are like 5 guys stood in here watching football, having a smoke and a drink and a sandwich. Why are there 20 cars in the car park? And behind the cafe, at the back of the building, which you cannot see from the road, typically Portuguese, is a Leytown restaurant full of people having a proper dinner. But you would never know. I walked down the slope to the back of the building to this restaurant, thinking, "Am I trespassing here?" And so it's just not about footfall or passing trade. You would only know about this place if you lived in the area and were taken there by a local. And you wonder, this is the whole thing. Interesting thing, isn't it, about Portuguese marketing? Is there is sometimes no Portuguese marketing apart from word of mouth and local reputation.
That's the best.
Yes, you're right. Yes, yes. Well said.
When you don't pay for marketing.
Yeah.
That is the best.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. It was almost like I'd stumbled across a secret restaurant, and this is not the only one.
Carlito, whenever you go and you see a restaurant, they always say if you see a lot of trucks stopped or people along the side of the road, go there because it's got to be good, right? Like if you see a lot of trucks and stuff, that's actually a typical Portuguese saying. I think in all the world, right? Pretty much. Where
Yes, true.
tenho caminhão é para comer bom or something like that.
It's true. That's such a good guide. And Pete's saying here there is no advertising in Portugal. You should know is the key phrase, and that's for restaurants, events, and all sorts of things happening in Portugal. Moaz, no one answered my Portuguese language question. Well, they will now. Is it correct to say "Eu saudade, meus amigos" in Phoenix? So what's that? I'm feeling homesick for Portugal in Phoenix. Is that correctly structured? I wonder. Do you want to correct or not there, Tony?
Yeah, she's missing a couple of words, just a couple in between. That's all,
Okay.
But
you got the gist of it. All right,
tenho saudades. Yes. Tenho that I'm longing because saudade means eu, then tenho tenho saudade do meu. If she's plural or single, so I'm saying here, so do the males, it's plural amigos in Phoenix. Shout out to Phoenix. I miss Phoenix. Lived close to there for many years. I love that area.
Oh, right, okay.
Eu tenho saudades dos meus amigos em Phoenix.
Okay.
So just 2 words. Eu tenho and dos. Tenho dos. From missing mine.
Okay, and that's because saudade is a noun and not a verb.
Exactly.
Although, I mean, it could quite easily be a verb in Portugal. I'm saudading at the moment, but you have it rather than do it.
Eu tenho saudades. Tu tens saudades. You gotta have it. It's a noun. It's not a verb.
Okay, there you go. We love the fact, says Pete, that there are village coach trips. In 20 years, I expect to see you and Mrs. Munson being helped along the road with members of the community, humouring your much repeated stories. I can't wait for that. Thank you for that, Pete. And hola, bon dia, Joao from Victoria, who spotted you this morning. Going back to Spanish-Portuguese rivalry, no offence meant, but subtleness and Spanish culture definitely do not go together. Everything about Spain is rough, noisy, and it's all relative, isn't it? But look, from a Portuguese perspective, everything about Spain is rough, noisy, and sometimes almost rude, at least in Portuguese terms there. So there you go. You heard it from our Portuguese authority, João F. there. The nose point is like a French gesture. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? And don't forget, we're talking about these European stereotypes here. The biggest phone-in Europe, possibly the only one. We'll do that again at 9:30. I hope you can stay for that so we can take calls live from those who might want to remain anonymous as well. Might have a Spanish person or a French person phoning in. So are you cool with that, Tony? You haven't taken a few calls if people want to...
Bah oui, c'est pas
Bien
problème.
sûr.
Je parle un petit peu. Let's
Very
go.
good.
Let's
Very good.
do it, baby. Let's
All
go.
right. Let me just add, it's the biggest English-speaking phone in Europe. But I mean, we can go multilingual. I think Tony sounds like he's up to that.
Well, we can speak
Brilliant.
Portuñol, which is it's a word in the dictionary now. Did you know that? Portuñol.
I have heard of this. Yeah, shout out to friends Phil and Maria who brought that to my attention, who've been sending us some lovely videos. Yeah, absolutely, Portuñol. As in something you think that's gathering ground, or has it always been there and just recently been given a name?
It's just been recently given a name. Well, it's been around because that's what people speak, Portuñol. And
Yeah.
so there's a language that came out of it, and it's been recognized.
Yes.
They're recognizing it as a language, especially in the border towns, Portuñol.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense.
It's the English version of Spanglish.
Spanglish, yeah. Oh my goodness. That makes me slightly embarrassed and awkward being a British person and people busting out their Spanglish on the Costa del Sol. Sad news. And Ken Block has passed. Forgive me. I don't know who Ken Block is. Perhaps you'll let us know, Lord Gilchrist. And it's this slightly sort of morbid thing going on that a lot of celebrities died in 2022 for sure. I mean, those lists of people that passed at the end of the year, that was intense, wasn't it, for 2022? Bon dia, late but here. Good morning to you, Sarah. Hola, bon dia. Alegria to you, Sarah. So looking forward then to 2023. You got your trade mission coming up and you're excited, I'm sure. And the people on that delegation will be very excited to be joining you in the spring of this year, where you're welcoming people over to Portugal and sharing with them the cultural delights. That and the rest of the year ahead from a realtor's or a realtor's or a real estate agent's point of view, Tony. How's it looking for you as you gird your loins from a Portuguese property perspective for 2023?
Well, first, I would just say that the spring is already sold out. We're
What?
already getting ready for May. Yeah, it's.
Okay. Sorry, old news.
We're closed. We closed that event, so that'll be happening in March, and that's closed out already. And we're already getting ready for May 26th through June 2nd as well. So if you'd like to be a part of, because we only allow up to 15 people. It's just, you know what, like we don't want it to be a logistic nightmare. We want to be a little more personal with everyone getting to know not only our realtor friends and clients, and that's the only way. If you do it for like 30 or 40 people, you lose a little bit of intimacy, and so we never want that, And so we have a big bus to all ourselves, basically, and the whole farmhouse and almost the hotel, and but it is great. And then we're planning also in October. Down by the south part of maybe we should do a tour of the GuMPer, along the way.
Well, you
Why
can,
not, right?
That's the
Maybe
law.
come to the port or something on the way down.
I think I can speak for the GuMPers. If you're ever passing a GuMPer house, you can stop for a glass of wine. That's how it should be. That's like an official GuMPer hospitality there. So I'm sure that'll be fine, Tony. I will share that. Well, that's amazing. So you've sold out the first one and you're already booking up for May. And this isn't open to the general public, is it? This is for real estate.
No, it is open to the general public because we do have clients that it's realtors from the US because they themselves are investing here in Portugal. Yeah, and so they want to move here. It's just not the normal Americans, the crazy realtor Americans too. So I'm one of them. So yes. there's a lot now. I say crazy. There's a lot of from Americans. That's our biggest group of buyers, and it's a good thing. I mean, I love it. I love it because for more than 20 years, people are now maybe they were believing me when I used to tell them more than 20 years ago that Portugal would be like the new Florida, the new California, the 51st state. Portugal would be the 51st state, I used to tell. And I'm happy for that because that's where you got to go where you're happy. That's all. Move around. You're not happy, move. You're not a tree. That's what I say to people. And whether
you're not a tree.
You're not a tree. You could move at any time. And so we do these events for people to get to know the culture, the wine, the history a little bit, asking. It's kind of like your show in the morning, but you get to spend the whole week with me in that sense. And so from morning till night, and even out into the wee hours of the night, party, fiesta, and we're
Tony
going to
time.
too. Yeah, but
wall to wall Tony time then, and
yeah.
put
But
to
I
spring
love it. I love it
going
because
into May.
it's
Brilliant.
sharing.
Now
It's
this,
sharing Portugal.
well, yeah, and you're so good at that. And so tell us about this. What you've been saying for, did you say 20 years? You've been making this prediction for 20 years, and
More than
people,
20 years. I've been here more than 20 years. And what I saw this back in, when I used to come here, my story, or people that have listened, when I have heritage, my parents,
yeah,
grandparents. So we used to come when we were kids. And then as my parents retired, when I was little, I had no choice. Up until you're 18, you're coming with us. And that's so you come, right? So, and that's just for you to get to know your grandparents, your culture. That was something at the time I hated, but now I'm very happy and thankful for it. And
mm,
as the years went by, when my parents retired, I bring my niece to visit their grandparents here. So she spent the summer with me. So from like in the middle 90s up until 97, 98, 99, it was actually after 98. That's when the decision for me to move to Portugal was made all the difference because of the highways, the expo, you can get around, infrastructures, and you see where Europe was going, right? And it's only been grown since then. And we're not perfect by any means. What country is perfect? You have to move to Mars. So you find your place. That's what I say. If you're happy in the US, then you shouldn't complain about it, and you make it your home and you live there and you're happy. If you say one bad thing about it, get the hell out of there then. That's the same. As I say to Portuguese people, you don't complain about Portugal. I could never hear that. I say, you're not happy. Move, go. Bye. Siga, in the German, rausta, and so because I am at least, very nationalistic people that I love Portugal. I made it my home,
yeah,
and for more than 20 years, I used to say, you look around like, wow, how people have not discovered this yet. So when I used to say jokingly, but in a serious tone, that that Portugal would become the 51st state, people laughed at me and they said, "Oh, the Americans would never love it here. This is a third world country," and it was in many ways. When you go back, 25 years ago, more than 25, it is not. It's not what it is now in terms of infrastructures, the hospitals, and the schools, and nothing is perfect, like I said, but it's perfect for me, and that's what matters. It's perfect for me, and I knew that it would be perfect for many, many others, and that's what you get here, and that's where people they're moving around, and you think that for one moment that a lot of Portuguese are not moving to American too. They want to go there. The people are moving all around the world. It's just that it is what it is. It's just that Portugal now, we all know this. I think people, we discovered Portugal over 500 years ago, discovered the world. Now the world is discovering Portugal. And
so
it's
true.
that simple. People
Yeah,
were
no,
home
I
after,
agree.
after people were
And you've
home
gone,
after COVID,
well,
and
you've
they
gone through these phases, haven't you? This is what happens to prophets. I think is they're ridiculed at first, aren't they? And then there comes the grey area where, well, maybe he's right about this, and then the acceptance, like everyone agrees with you eventually, and they've always thought that all along, and they don't come back to you and say
Well,
sorry about that, Tony.
Carl, it's been my niche market. It's my niche market that my marketing and my strategy was all about the foreigner moving to Portugal that needed help, and
Yeah,
we get a lot of that. You get a lot of that, whether they're British or they're South American or wherever they are in the world. They come to Portugal and they're helping out other people too. You know what I mean? Move here, get assimilated here, etc, because we have the experience of living here. I have the experience of growing up here as a kid, which I didn't like that much, but I still have it as more than 20 years. And when I think people love to work with me because they want to get to know my restaurant database. And I have maybe over 400 restaurants to go throughout Portugal, and even wine cellars and this and that and everything. So I think people they want to work with me because of all the restaurants that I visit. And I think I have a big list, and even when they call me, hey, can you get us a table there at that place at the Green restaurant at the Green? Oh yeah, okay, I know the Green. And so there's so much that has grown in the last plus 20 years, and I think that for me is the best thing, Carl, because that's where I feel like, okay, someone that loves this country that would adopt, and that's why I'm very well received, because maybe I'm a foreigner. Whereas, for example, if you go to like Barcelona, they don't like foreigners there. Go home, extranjeros, right? Or like here, foreigners
right.
are welcome. Then, unless you're a mean, bad person, then you shouldn't live anywhere. Then you need to go to Antarctica. but otherwise you're going to be well received here, and you have great neighbors because the Portuguese people are one of the most inviting people in the world, and it's not,
Yeah.
and that's a fact. That's a fact because if you go to other Portuguese communities throughout anywhere in the world, they're very inviting. They're I know I visited quite a few of them, and you have that even in the local, you get that even in the city, in the neighborhoods. But if you go to the local villages and more interior, I tell you, Carl, like even myself, like people know, wait, you speak Portuguese, but you're not Portuguese. So they, and I love it. And I'd rather speak, I get much better service speaking English. And, I don't even try, like, if he
That's
thinks I'm
interesting.
from another planet, which I am from another planet, but if that's, and I get a better service, probably even a discount or something, or like you get a little more extra wine or this or that, and then or you wink your eye and you have that. Why not? People love that, and I think that's what I love it. I love it when I go to São Martinho do Porto or Coimbra or the Algarve or Lisbon. It doesn't matter anywhere. Like people don't think like, hey, you speak Portuguese, but you're not Portuguese. People pick up that right away, and you don't have to try. I mean, people understand that everybody speaks English, right? Why
I've
change
seen
that?
you working this magic, Tony. I have seen you working this magic when we had that lunch together. It was a lot of fun, and I can imagine people do want to take you to the Green Restaurant and have that lunch with you. I want to see, I want to see the TV show or a book of your restaurants. I think that would be amazing. But
Well, I'm
we
actually planning on writing a book.
oh
Eating
good, an illustrated book with all these restaurants
No,
and
no. Well,
references.
part of it. I
Yeah.
lost more than this past year. I lost 23 kilos, right? I mean, I weighed myself a year ago, and I weighed myself
Oh,
at the end of the year. So I lost 23 kilos. So I was recommended to write a book, Eating Your Way Through Portugal and Losing the Weight. And
what?
so,
They thought it was impossible, but here he is going against all you've ever thought and understood about diets and
and
lifestyle. Tony, we gotta throw the phone lines open, okay? So
let's
bear
do
bear
it. Let's do it.
bear
Spanish, English, French, German. Bring them
okay,
on.
let's start up the biggest phone in Europe now. Here we go. See you on the other side of this. Well, that's a lovely bit of music. That's the Ode to Joy, of course, which the European Commission, Council, Union have adopted as their theme tune. But we're going to extend that to all of Europe, all 50 or thereabouts sovereign states. One of the questions that came up yesterday was, is Russia in Europe or not? Which is a slightly awkward question at the moment, of course. But Europe, Tony, is a somewhat mutable concept, isn't it? It's not as clear cut as 27 member states of the European Union, which is only a subset of Europe. Can I ask you, have you traveled much in some of the lesser celebrated parts of Europe, Eastern Europe, for example? Well, tell me about your relationship to the continent and the peninsula, rather than specifically the kind of Western Europe and EU kind of aspects of Europe.
Well, let's just get this straight. Russia is part of Europe, the continent. It's not part of the European Union. It's
You're
just
not likely to be anytime soon
no.
either.
They went the same route. They're in the same place where with the United Kingdom. They're part of the European. They're in Europe. They're not part of the
Yeah.
European Union.
Okay.
And the less traveled routes. I remember when it was the Cold War had ended. This was like in the late early '90s, actually, early '90s. And I went to the Czech Republic, Slavic. They had split already, right? Everything, that area there. And it was a very, wow, how things were cheaper, for one.
Yeah.
The people were nice. I mean, you talk about like what it is now, Czech, and even you go to Prague, for example. I mean, if you ever went there, people know what I'm talking about. Like in the early '90s, people were happy to get rid of it, to be out of, the communism area, that whole event, that really people were just really happy to get out of and get over with. And things were cheaper at the time. You go to Prague now, it's not what it is. You go to the Slavic countries. You go to Yugoslavia. Okay, you go to Yugoslavia. Beautiful. When you go to, it was like, you remember the Olympics? It was in '88 Sarajevo. How beautiful it was and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Okay, if you went there in 1992 or 93, and it's that everything's just been demolished and beaten up, and all civil war unrest and everything. It really is. It's sad. Why can't just people get along? It really is.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah, flipping
yeah,
out.
but those off-beaten countries, the people are really nice. They are really nice. They're very. I mean, that was my whole experience throughout there. I went, and again, I did this by train. I did this all by train. I went all over Europe. It was almost 2.5 months traveling in Europe through train. And
Did you?
yeah, it was a great experience. I recommend it. Before you start the real world, the real job, do that. Before when you
This
get
is
out of college,
was this on Interrail or Eurail, getting like a ticket to travel across?
Your rail.
And you can still do this. This we'll talk about this more on the phone in because
Probably
this
for
is
like a week or two, or
yeah,
at
it's
least
a bargain, isn't it? It's really good value as well.
yeah, taking the even the Orient Express. I mean, from Budapest to from Austria to Budapest, or vice versa, rather. From Budapest, I took from Budapest to Austria, and those countries, a lot of them weren't even part of Romania. They weren't even part of the European Union at the time, right? It was the only Portugal. I mean, it wasn't 27 or 26 countries
Uh-huh.
as what it is now. But I love going through there and just getting deep diving into the people, to the culture. I spent when you get off the train station, they have pictures. Hey, do you want to stay here? And forget about the fancy of the hotels. There were none at the time, so people had pictures of the hotel or of the house rather. Right? You can rent a room. It was like €4, $4 or $5 for the night or something. They make you breakfast for another 50 cents or like whatever. I mean, we're talking like eggs and bacon and omelets and orange juice and
Where was
coffee.
this? Where are we talking about?
This is all in the Eastern Europe countries. There, when right after the fall of the communists,
Yeah,
the Cold War, right?
yeah.
The communist regime and stuff. The Berlin Wall went down, everything just changed around.
Wow,
And you
incredible.
step out of the train station and you have people there. You don't know who they are. You know what? Like, yeah, let's go. You get in their car and you go. They show you a picture, and you would think I don't know if I would do it now with what I know of the world, but at the time everything was just a lot safer. A lot of trust and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and I never had a problem. Whatever. I mean, I stayed in so many different countries. I looked at so many different people. You literally come out of the train and he showed you a picture. Do you want to stay here? And I said, yeah, sure, let's go, and stuff. And,
That's
and then
amazing. So yeah, that must have been a little bit of a worry for your parents. The fall of the Iron Curtain and the breakdown of Russian communism, and or that particular iteration, we should say, and you decide to go traveling around, as you put it, there, Central Europe, by train, and there
I
you are.
did Central Europe, and you weren't allowed with the Eurail. You weren't allowed. You had to pay extra for that,
Yeah,
and even then, you had to pay the within the European. For example, like the Czech Republic, Slavic, all those countries, they were not part of the European Union, so you had to pay. And you had these guys, these military, come in there, and with the visas, you had to pay like $100, just for the visa to get in and stuff. And they're like, okay, we didn't know. Well, they told us. We knew, but you still get, like, hey, what the heck?
I love it.
What are you gonna do? They're not gonna shoot me down. I mean, maybe I'll have to pay a fine or something. That's what they did. So I had to pay it on the spot and stuff, and
For not
stamp
having
the
your visa.
passport.
All
Yeah, but
part of the excitement of traveling in foreign countries where you don't quite know the rules. And a lot's changed since then. We'll find out about Croatia in just a minute because, of course, they just
Croatia.
joined the Euro, didn't they? And I don't know what the problem is here. Maybe the link isn't working. 404. I think I do need a bit of tech help with goodmorningportugal.com. You need to put www in. If you just put goodmorningportugal.com, I think you do get a 404. That's something to do with my settings and a little challenge I've got there. So try that if that is indeed what you're looking for. How else can we help, Anne? Let us know what the original quest was there. So yeah, Croatia and the Euro. Look at this, Tony. Did you go to Croatia on that particular trip around Europe?
Not at that trip. I went to Croatia years later, and it's a beautiful
Yeah.
country. I mean, there's so many islands there too, like the Greek islands. There's
Yes.
just beautiful. The Adriatic and the people. Wow,
Yeah.
and they're beautiful and beautiful women there. I mean, I would I could have gotten hitched at the time there.
Oh, really? Came back with a bride.
Yeah,
Croatia.
yeah.
Euro, 1st of January then, becoming the 20th member state of the Eurozone. This was the first expansion of the monetary union since Lithuania joined in 2015. Long time ago since the country joined. Fixed conversion rate was set at €1, which got you will get you 7.5 kunas by the sound of it. The previous currency, the kuna, used the euro, and prior to that, one of the euro's major predecessors, the German mark or Deutschmark, in Croatia, as its main reference since its creation in '94. And a long-held policy of the Croatian National Bank was to keep the kuna's exchange rate with the euro within a relatively stable range. So they must have had their eyes on doing this for quite a long time. So Croatia welcomed then into the Eurozone. Do you remember, Tony, when Portugal changed from the escudo to the euro?
Perfectly, like it was yesterday.
Really?
And, it was in 2002. One euro was worth 220 escudos.
Wow.
And which was basically at the time, €1 was 200 point something escudos, whereas, for example, like $1 at the time. What you talk about the parity now, right? That the U.S. dollar is at parity with the euro, for example, the American dollar. At the time in 2002, and I remember distinctly. I mean, like I said, these are things that you never forget, right? And at the time, €1, or actually you would only have to pay €1 would get you $1.20. So you would only have to pay it was less than $1, to get a euro. Then it was the best exchange rate ever. And then it just down from here ever, But I remember, and even there, I think that was one of the great things. And I will tell you this, that even for example, even Croatia, Serbia, okay, Montenegro, their countries, all those countries, what they're going through now. Okay, listen to what I'm saying. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's easy to see. These are things when you talk about real estate and investments and whatnot. Look at where Portugal was 20, 30 years ago, where it's grown now. If you go to those countries, you got to look at infrastructures. At any time you look at a country and where you're going to move and etc., grow, invest, look at infrastructures. Look at the hospitals, look at the schools, look at the roads, look at the trains, look at all the infrastructures of the country. And that country is going through those growing pains right now. So in the next 15 years, 20 years, they're affordable to live. They're extremely affordable. They have that still a little bit, I think, of the unstable political climate and stuff. But although Serbia is okay, Croatia too. But in that general region there, the Eastern European countries, there are definitely lots and lots of growth there. And that's where you'll see a lot of people going. The only thing you have to worry about is probably not as much sun it is here in Western Europe or Portugal, or even the lower belt of the Iberian Peninsula. But you'll see a lot of growth there in the future in those two Eastern European countries, and I have no doubt about that. Just like I have no doubt that Portugal would be the 51st state. I have no doubt about it.
Oh, well, will remember that. People in years to come, people will remember you saying that here. But are you linking this development in these countries with growth of infrastructure and their own booms in the same way as Portugal seems to have done, with joining the European Union club mechanism, if you like?
Of course.
Okay, all right.
That's being together, being you have certain benefits of doing things together. Just the exchange rates, the controls, the help. Under the monetary fund or the European Central European Bank. There's pluses and negatives, but in terms of growth for a country, you need those infrastructures, and if they have to borrow the money from somewhere. So they're going to borrow it from a union, right? A European Union. Yeah. And, where they're going to at least be controlled by other member states. They have something to say about it. And that's where the growth begins, in the infrastructures of the country.
Yeah. And so interesting. I don't know what the words you used exactly there, but there's an upside and a downside to the membership. And of course, you get a good shot in the arm of finance and infrastructure, don't you, when you join the EU, as was witnessed by Portugal. Can you give us, because it's quite difficult sometimes for us foreigners to get a sense of what people really think, politically, what Portuguese people think politically. We're kind of, I've got a political age of about 5, certainly under 10 in understanding what's going on in the country. I mean, I was looking at the English-speaking Portuguese newspapers, and there is a political crisis in Portugal at the moment. They're going to be debating in Parliament. I had no idea. So I don't know if you want to comment on that particularly, and if anyone wants to ring in and talk about that, 913-590-303 on WhatsApp. Do give us a call and join this conversation with me and Antonio here. But what do Portuguese people generally feel about EU membership? Because they've had the membership. That goes back a long way, as you say, to joining the euro in 2002. That's 20 years ago now, and so you've had the benefit in many ways, you might say, that you've illustrated there. But then comes the other part of it, doesn't it? The other parts, the downsides, if you like, and people moaning and bitching about EU membership and what that might mean. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into the Portuguese psyche when it comes to EU membership?
Carlito, the Portuguese people are the biggest whiners and diners and criers of probably of the European Union. They're always crying. They're never happy. They're never
Right,
happy.
all right.
It's never happy. You know,
This is
this
good stuff.
bang, you go to the coffee shop, very
Right.
few. But you know what? I say to these people, you have a lot of free time on your hand. You know, did you think about all the benefits that you get of being part of something? Whether it's the health service, the money doesn't. We were bankrupt in 2012. If it wasn't for the help of the European Union, it wasn't for help of the International Monetary Fund, we were bankrupt. Okay, we're nowhere near that because of certain checks and balances with the banking systems, with evaluations, with money spent. Portugal has one of the biggest. They're the biggest corrupted countries, I think. But I love it here. Again, if I wasn't, you know what, like. Listen, if I wasn't happy, it exists. It exists everywhere. We just cry a lot about it, and people cry because, they want, but they look at it like, okay, what are the benefits of being actually? Do you remember? I mean, 30, 40 years ago, this was a very different country. It was just totally different. If we didn't have the roads, we didn't have the hospitals. That's what makes it attractive. What's scary for me, and I hope they'll find a way to check and balances. That's what governments will do. And, right now they're going through that shifting of, look, for example, it has to do with the TAP, with the airline, the big things and about paying the fines of, not fines, of people being fired or dismissed from their jobs and stuff when they're paying, X amount. If all the bailouts of the country, of the banks and everything. So this is what Portugal is. It is what it is, like if and any Portuguese person that lives and works here, listen, is it cheap? Is it as expensive to live here? Of course it is. For them it is, maybe, but then look at all the benefits that they have. And they really do. When you think about it, somebody said there, life and growth are not linear. Well, you know what? Living in Portugal and making a lot of money is not linear either. You have to look at everything in a whole perspective. And only when you do that, you could really see the bigger picture. And the government we do have, if it was a government that probably had to do, it's just them. People voted. So what was wrong with the people then? Were they fake elections? I mean, people wanted them. So when you say to Portuguese people, you have a choice. When you have a choice to complain about it is the day when you vote. That's when you could vote and you could say it. Other than that, just shut up because you had the chance. And people, it really is. And some people want to hear that, some don't. And I just, we don't have time. I don't have time for that stuff. I just know it. I know you accept what country what it is, because if you don't, get out. And it is what it is. We are one of the biggest criers of Europe, and we're probably one of the most corrupt. People think of other countries that are corrupt, but we're here too. And the money that even came from the European Union. That's the truth. And that's the mess that we're in because of the bailouts of the banks, the bailouts of the companies like TAP. You know how many billions and billions of euros have been dropped there? They should have sold that a long time ago, and that costs every single citizen an extra. If you had we have 11 million people here, right? Almost 10.5 million, 11 million people. And everyone that pays taxes, it represents maybe about 30,000 people have put their how do you say that, they've mortgaged their grandchildren's lives, by accepting certain decisions. So when you vote for these politicians, that's what you essentially do. You want to make a change, then change the politics. Don't get mad at the game. That's all I say.
Very interesting, very interesting. And that's we're looking at the Portugal resident front page, and the sacked Secretary of State may have to return €500,000, which was their tap golden handshake. Some of the other headlines that you might want to call in. We've got about 10 minutes left on Europe's biggest phone-in. It's not much of a phone-in at the moment on 913-590-303, but we're glad to have Tony here, our man in the Minho. It's Tony time, everybody, and he's giving us an insight into the Portuguese political psyche this morning. Good news there that Douro is the European wine capital, but all sorts of things going on. Mysterious bodies found in Odimira. The president has given his New Year address. The PM has done so also, and I think focusing on the prospects and for young people. The minimum wage, of course, has gone up from around 700 to 750, I believe, as well. Big deal, you might say. And storms have been continuing to cause havoc across the country. That's pretty much the front pages there. This political crisis, then, what are we talking about specifically with a debate in Parliament about a political crisis? Is it about the corruption?
No, it's just a reshuffling of the government. That's nothing.
Oh, okay.
That's something simple. You know, the minister of minister of infrastructure. So, you know, he left, and you know what? He shouldn't be there. You know, when you look at it, like from listening to Nuno Pedro Santos, right?
Yes.
And who's going to replace him? You know, the two. There's actually the Secretary of State, one for the housing, Marina Gonçalves, or this or that. You know what? It's just reshuffling of the government. So they're going to pass the buck to somebody else. You know, it's always somebody else's fault, and that's where the politics, I think, they make a mistake, is that they blame it on somebody else, and that's another beautiful thing of Portugal. Let's just blame it on the Spanish. You know what? We're bad. blame it on the Americans. Blame it on the British.
What about the Arabs? Because here's an interesting.
Blame it on the Arabs. You know.
Well, this could be an unexpected cultural shift. Of course, we've got João Mendonça who's joined us. Mendonça, I beg your pardon. Bon dia, Carl. And João continues to say he's a big fan of the United Kingdom. Is João and Margaret Thatcher, in fact. Carl, our economy is going to pick up now. Is his prediction, because Cristiano is at Al Nassr. Now, we've had the Americans. You said it's going to be the 51st state of the United States here in Portugal. But with Cristiano going to Saudi Arabia to play football for the rest of his career, by the sound of it, do you think that's going to stir Arab interest in Portugal? And as somebody in real estate, have you had much interest from the Middle East? Are we on the radar of the Middle East investment potential?
We have been for a long time.
Okay.
Cristiano Ronaldo, you know what? His pockets are going to be well lined, and so will the. There's reasons for that, you know, and I think, you know, you have to look further, look a little deeper. They're actually competing. I don't know how they actually hired him on the premise that he's going to be the ambassador for the World Cup in 2030. But, you know, guess what? Portugal's also on that list. They're going to be sharing, right? So I don't know how, you know, we're having Cristiano as there in Al Nassr. It's all about the money. I mean, it's just, I don't even know how many millions per second. It's too many. But that's what it is.
Too many. Okay, Mustafa Sifa is with us this morning. Good morning and happy new year to you as well, my friend. Are there any updates about the job seeker visa? Thanks. Well, I imagine we can find out from Gilda tonight on Migration Tuesday. So you can call in later on this evening on the Expats Portugal phone in later on this evening, Mustafa, and find out about that. Bob Wenger, which I'll be hosting incidentally. Bob, bon dia. Moaz, it's all up and down. Sometimes it is going up and down. Tell your friends that we have the biggest phone in Europe, won't you? From 9:30 on a weekday morning. Bring some people over here. Just maybe stir them up a bit with some of the things that we're talking about here, and tell them that they're able to give their contribution on 913-590-303. This is a place where you can express your opinions freely and be heard. That doesn't mean to say your opinions won't be challenged, but we are endeavoring to create an atmosphere in which people can speak freely, legally and respectfully, of course, as ever, in the Good Morning Portugal environment. But come and get things off your chest and share things and see if your view and your assumptions can be tested in the light of day. Portugal is positively saintly, says Pete, compared to Spain and the UK. How about 50K for an Airbnb license in Barcelona, or the PPE scandal in the UK? At least they get found out here in the UK. They get a knighthood. That's an interesting angle on that. Thank you, Pete. Joao F., the present political crisis in Portugal is peculiar, to say the least, because it didn't come from the opposition. That is peculiar. Was it started from within? But rather than from numerous messy cases, poor coordination, and bad calls of the government, and yeah, so they've caused their own problem here, shot themselves in the foot by the sound of it, and the absolute majority that supports it in Parliament. So we do have a government here that is made up of a number of interests. I can't remember for the life of me. I can't think of the phrase now, but it is it's a coalition. It's a coalition. Yeah, nepotism for sure. But it's a coalition, isn't it? So sometimes that works well. At the moment, it sounds like it's not working very well. But you think nothing to worry about, just the normal churn of political life. In Portugal, village life, there are usually 2 or 3 families that run the village. You have to just get to know them and give them cheese and wine. Is that how it works? The little sort of social protection rackets. Is that how it works here, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I go out for the night, I usually bring like a ham or like a big piece of ham. I keep it in the trunk in case you get stopped by the police. You could just pay them off. Hey, you know what? Let's look in the, yeah, it still works. I mean,
No way. I'm sure he's joking, everybody. 177 million reasons a year. What is that he's referring to there? I like it. We're getting into the politics here now. Call in if you want to in the last few minutes, 00351. You can use your WhatsApp. You can just use your Wi-Fi. You won't be calling Portugal. If that's what you're worried about, that you're calling Portugal, it's going to be a massive international bill. Just use WhatsApp, 00351 913 590303. Help us make this the biggest phone in Europe. I can't wait till Tony's back.
The music's free. The music's free, Carlito, but you got to pay for the dancing. Don't forget to tell them that.
That's right. The music is free, but you got to pay for the dancing. How did I forget that? It's going to get political over who is going to hold the World Cup in 2030. Everything is getting more political, not just the footy. Joao F. Has a mass genocidal killer got on the Portuguese equivalent of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, while they were meant to be working. Matt Hancock. Is that who you're referring to as a mass genocidal killer then, Pete? That's a fairly strong accusation there. Not one that I disagree with necessarily. Cristiano will come through for Saudi. You heard a lot of prophecies then. We've heard the 51st state of the United States is Portugal. That's something that Tony's been saying for 20 years, and we're seeing it come true before our very eyes. And here, Joao is telling us that Cristiano will come through for Saudi, and you heard it here first. And we heard from Mustafa that a lot of laws are going to change this year. Do you have any ideas about that? What laws? Now, you might, in the last couple of minutes, before I share some contributions of video from our community here, Tony, perhaps as a last contribution from you this morning, law changes. The visas have been very favorable for people coming to Portugal. Do you expect legal changes with the visas?
Well, for one, it was in last July. They updated the visas. Were in October 30th. Not the passive income visa. The digital nomad visa was introduced. Keep in mind, the biggest thing that the minimum wage now went from 705 euros to 755. So that itself will change because it has to do with the passive income you got to have. The digital nomad visa is 2,800 euros a month that you have to prove. That still maintains the same. Yep. Look at, like, you have the D2 visa, entrepreneurial visas. That nothing has changed. The golden visa has not changed as well. It won't change, if anything, until this year, until they do the next in October when they do the next budget, because it's based upon that budget. The change. So there's no changes till then. What they probably will, my opinion, will do is that the value will have to be higher. And they're going to be, and I think to compensate for the amount of tourism that we're getting, amount of foreigners moving to Portugal, there will be some sort of tax. There will be a lot more, just to pay for the local services, like the hospitals, etc. There may be a little tax for that, and that's normal, and that's part of, maintaining the benefit. Hey, whether you have to prove to get here or you got to have X amount of money, there will be a taxes, I think, higher there will be. It's just that's something that happens, unfortunately, that will really also the governments will have to make a change about that. And so get in now, because it'll be harder to get here, not only but not for like work visas, okay? For work visas, and I'll tell you why. Because when you go, the Portuguese people, they don't like to do manual labor. That's my experience, okay? They don't want to work in a factory. We have to go to Sri Lanka. We have to go to Pakistan. We have to go to India. We have to go to Brazil. Do you know the number of Brazilians that are living in Braga here right now in the north? It's unbelievable, okay? Where it's just, and they're working, they're starting businesses. Indians, they start out in the fields picking strawberries. Portuguese people don't want those jobs. We have too many doutores and engineers. We have too many doctors and engineers. Everybody went to going to school for that. But like, there's the normal jobs, right? When you would say the amount of compensation or wages will also get higher by end of 2030. You're looking at 955 euros. That's going to raise as well. So progressively, the wages will get bigger, right? Or even for the Portuguese, or even for the foreigners that will want to live here. So there'll be a lot more openness to accepting, because there's going to be a lot of jobs to fill. Even in the tourism sector. There you go. There was a big shortage of people, of qualified manpower and everything. So those are growing pains still that we were not prepared for that. That's the truth. We were not prepared in the last 2-3 years for after COVID. Nobody was, I don't think, but especially Portugal wasn't, for the amount of people that were going to be coming into Portugal. Why?
Interesting.
It's good, so, but
you've been saying this, haven't you, for 20 years? Your prediction came true. People have started to come to Portugal. And would you say then that things will change? And in some ways, we're not victims of our own success here, but things will change because of the popularity.
Well, they'll have to, money doesn't come from the trees, doesn't fall from the sky, and you can't plant it. Well, you kind of plant it, maybe it'll grow. But what you got to do, okay, and that's what's the key. You don't want the main reason that people still want to move to Portugal and live here, and that is healthcare, that is education, okay, and safety. Okay. And those three basic principles of infrastructures, you can't have medical doctors leaving or teachers, etc. That's what makes it attractive for people to hear. And when they're not getting paid, the police officers, when they're not getting paid, or like I said, three: education, healthcare, and safety. When those three infrastructures of a country are being touched, because I've many friends of mine are police officers and engineers and and stuff.
I'm
and
surprised to hear that after what you said.
And they get teachers, they get paid lousy. Nurses, doctors, they're not. They should be at really. Everybody, when it was during COVID, everybody clapped their hands. Hey, we're here. We're give them the raises, etc. Nothing happened. People have a short memory. They have a very short memory.
So
very short memory. So
yes.
Once you start to really affect those infrastructures, and that's what Portugal. I think for me, that's what I worry about. Nothing else. Everything else is going to grow, but those three infrastructures can never go. That's what makes it attractive for people to be here. Okay. Once those things start to go away, then because of the equality, right, of the medical, the education, the safety, all those things. Once those are affected, then people are not going to make there. There's going to be other countries like in Eastern European countries where they'll grow.
Yes, absolutely. And if you were to take another 20-year prediction, I think that's what we're talking about, right? These countries that you mentioned before. Fascinating, Tony. I am eating into your daytime now. I'm sure you've got to go and meet people and have lunch and
going to the gym. Going to the gym right now.
Are you? Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's a shame that we're going to have to wait a whole month to see you again, because it's been fascinating this morning. Do you want to stay just for a few more comments, responses to what you've said this morning?
Or maybe in between from now until then, something drastic will happen that we can comment about it.
Well, you can always phone in yourself. Yeah, call in yourself to Europe's biggest phone in.
Oh, there you go. But even probably maybe sometime in the middle of the month, if the Arabs decide to buy Portugal, which wouldn't be a bad idea anyway. I think.
I think you'll be in the middle of that deal.
They got a lot of billions of petrodollars. Imagine.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and you need to be in a negotiating team, I think, there with your special angles on these things. Anyway, I think one should, in fact, complain about any government, even if especially if you voted for them. One has to make them accountable for their actions. That's a great view. Thank you, João. Ronaldo's contract will run for 2.5 years until January 2025 with a total salary of 200 million. euros, that is, 177 million pounds as it stands per year once commercial agreements are included. Not too bad for a couple of years and a couple of years.
It's a little above minimum wage, but it's pretty good.
It is not as much as we make from real estate, though, eh, Tony?
No.
That was far too complicated for me to understand. Seriously, can you please explain what you mean? And he does in just a moment, Joao F. Too many forget the reason behind the 74 revolution. Today's politicians need to be put out by the people. A mass strike, stay at home 24 hours, force a general election, vote them out.
Never.
I think
Carlito, never. Listen,
not
Portuguese people will be a lot quicker to go celebrate a victory over Sporting or Benfica in the Marquês. They'll never put on the yellow reflector jackets like they do in France and Spain, and where they make things happen. No,
Yes.
there's no.
Okay.
Look at it, and it's the truth. And people
It's
don't
the
want to.
truth.
But it is
We
what
kind
it
of
is.
like that. We can, and we must have a phone in about the 74 revolution, because as I've become a little bit more cynical since I've been here and met more cynical Portuguese people.
But I agree with João. We need a new revolution.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, fair enough. Then maybe people could call in about that on 9135900303. Let's get the escudo back. Imagine how many millionaires would be in Portugal. I don't think that's happening either, João. He said it, Tony. He said it. Doutoras, we have too many, but you can't get one when you want one. So Pete says to you, João, if we had a health secretary, that's Matt Hancock, who sent thousands of COVID-positive old people back into care homes and was responsible for tens of thousands of deaths, and we rewarded him with a reality TV contest and £100,000. Thank goodness, says Pete, I have my Portuguese residency. I can't wait to get citizenship and give my ham to the GNR. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation. Invest in people's health to improve the country's wealth. Pete offering his meat around again. Yes, he appears to be. Health and education is the key, says Andrew. Yes, and you're quite right, I think, to make that call as well, Tony. You've got to keep investing. You can't rest on your laurels, can you? Because the country will grow with an increasing population. Pressure will be put on the health service and the education service, and that has to be a top priority, doesn't it, to maintain that? But we see these cycles come and go in other countries, of course, and you only have to look elsewhere, don't you, to see what happens.
This is the Alice of what? This is El País das Maravilhas. This is the Alice of Wonderland, Portugal. Trust me. If you're not here, you should be. That's all I could say. And most people do want to be here, and they are working towards getting here. But this is really the Alice of Wonderlands of Europe, of one of the countries of the world. So
let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy it while it lasts. So for you, my dear friend Antonio Barbosa, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Carlito, GuMPers. See you soon.
All right, mate. Take care and bye for now. Have a good time at the gym. Ciao, ciao. There he goes. Antonio Barbosa. Great. I didn't want to say goodbye this morning, but there you go. We have to. I have to say goodbye to you as well. I'm going to play a couple of videos, though. We had an amazing time celebrating Minnie's birthday yesterday. Got some images and some video to share. I'll see if I can tag on my video of going up to Ventosa. Oh, what was it? Up near Porta de Mos. We went up to the top of a hill where there's a radio mast for civil protection purposes and an amazing swing. It's incredible up there. I'll see if I can tag that video onto the end of these other contributions. Here's a picture of a woman with breastfeeding. This has been changed. This is the mural in Mama Rosa. That is a depiction, apparently, of Mrs. M as her good self. Me as quick and dirty on the horse there. Bon dia, Portugal. This is our movie poster. Thank you so much, by Randy, for that. One that I couldn't publish yesterday, Bon Ano Novo from Bill and Marcus. Let me take that off the screen. Yes, I'll go to Dolomba. That's a nice view of your place there in central Portugal. Thank you very much. So New Year greetings from Bill and Marcus there. Thank you very much indeed. We haven't said Happy Hogmanay. This looks dangerous, doesn't it? Should you be Scottish? This is from James. Happy Hogmanay. That looks dangerous, doesn't it? Drinking and flaming torches. I think there are swords and tap dancing, not river dancing kind of stuff going on there. No, that's Irish, not Scottish, isn't it? What is going on there in Scotland? Did anyone really celebrate like that? I hope there were firefighters standing by if that was the case. Lisbon this morning, then you can see the International Space Station. Allegedly, is that what it really is, Andy? Floating above the sky in Lisbon this morning. That's a lovely picture from the capital from Lord Gilchrist. And I think that's it for the stills. Let's go to some video now, some moving pictures. And we have one from Bairandi and one from Victoria. The first from Victoria.
Yeah, we're walking down to the beach, Bordera, Carretera. It's very dramatic and wild here, very rocky. Huge beach.
Oh, okay. That was Victoria there, and this is Bairandi with a New Year greeting as well. Video.
Bono Novo from the lovely Mirror. Bit rough out there today. Yep. New Year's Eve. There's a big festival here actually later. Okay.
Actually, we shared that one only yesterday, so I've got another one from Andy, and the one I'm trying to load up from the hilltop that we went to yesterday is too big. I'll make a specific video of that and load it up onto our YouTube channel. But this is. Hold on a minute, you can hear it, but you can't. Hold on a minute, Andy. I'm not ready for you yet. I'm just going to download this now, and from the Hunter's Cabin, you may have heard there. I think I've already downloaded this one as well. Let me see if I can pull that onto the screen for you now as our parting shot this morning from Andy. Yes, I can do that for you right now. So thank you so much. We did endeavor to have Europe's biggest phone in this morning, even though nobody phoned in. Make a note of the number, though, for when you feel inspired to do so. And please tell others on 00351 913 590303. A few more comments then before we go. Pete sending love. I think about Portugal. I love my new country. Portugal is home now. Accountability must be reinstated. That seems to be a clear message. Baddy, thanks for today. Hoping to make it to the meetup tomorrow. Fantastic. See you there. It's going to be a good one tomorrow at San Martino de Porto. And T-Duck will be with us. Enjoy the beautiful sun, Baddy, and a happy new year to you. So let's go out with a huzzah from James and this video from Andy. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care and bye for now.
Here we are by the Hunter's Cabin, waiting for the rain to die down a little bit before we carry on. Happy New Year.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day